Hi, it's me, and welcome to yet another Limbus Company new ID overview. Today, we've received two brand new seasonal triple-aught IDs in the Thumb East Soldato Secondo Sinclair and the Thumb East Capo Quarto Meursault. These are brand new IDs that fit into both the Tremor and Burn archetypes, though they do inflict and interact with Tremor a lot more than they do with Burn. Not that you can really interact with Burn very much to begin with. These are both very powerful IDs that provide interesting new axes for their archetypes to play on, and you know me, I'm always a big fan of getting new Burn support. They are also both ammo IDs, each coming with their brand new forms of unique ammo. Now, the thing about these unique ammo types is that they don't actually do anything on their own. There are technically effects embedded into Meursault's unique ammo types, but that same effect is found in his passive, and everything having to do with his unique ammo is found in both of these units' passives to begin with. So we'll go over those when we talk about their passives. One thing we should go over first is the new Tremor amplitude that both of these IDs share in Tremor Scorch. If you're familiar with Tremor Reverb, this is basically the same thing, except instead of dealing sloth damage, it is dealing wrath damage. That said, by just Tremor, it will only ever reach half the potential of Reverb. That is because it deals damage based on half the combined potency of both Tremor and Burn on the target, then also reduces their burn count by 1 whenever you cause a Tremor burst. People have been saying that it's just worse than Tremor Reverb as a result, and while I can understand the sentiment, that isn't actually how the math plays out most of the time. Since it deals a different type of damage, it has a different application than Reverb does in teams where you would want to use it. Plus, adding Burn is not exactly hard for a bit of extra damage, and you can always just apply both thanks to Amplitude Entanglement, if only for a single turn. But if the Wrath resistance number of the enemy is double or more than their Sloth resistance number, Scorch will always deal more damage than Reverb does. And it's not like extra Wrath damage on Tremor Burst is that bad at all to begin with. Now that we've established all that, let's get into their actual kits. The first and more interesting ID added this update was the Thumb East Soldato Secondo Sinclair. And no, you are not mishearing me. He starts the fight with 15 Scorch propellant ammo and is surprisingly tanky for his role in a team with 242 HP and tank speed. Firstly, whenever either of these IDs uses a coin that can spend ammo, if they don't have any ammo, that coin will still be used, it just doesn't inflict any burn potency or count. Whenever Sinclair spends ammo, he also gains damage up equal to the amount of ammo he spent next turn, up to a 30% damage boost for effectively just existing. It's not part of his passive that needs resonance to activate. His main passive is triggered off of 3 Pride Resonance, and it makes it so that after another ally spends ammo using a skill, if their ammo count is less than half what they started the encounter with, he will lend them ammo equal to the amount of ammo spent by that skill in the form of regular ammo, or the living and the departed in the case of Solomon Sang. This can only be triggered once per encounter, and can give up to 5 ammo to the target. He also gives 1 additional ammo to any Thumb unit of a higher rank, which is pretty helpful. Having a unit who can give ammo to allies is a new niche that has been filled, and this ID is good enough to bring in a team exclusively for that purpose. What's better is that you don't even need him in the battle for this to work. His support passive triggers off of 4 Pride Resonance and does exactly the same thing, but it lacks the ability to activate for another Thumb ID to give an extra bit of ammo. The support passive is amazing in Poise teams that feature the Full Stop Duo, since those are the only ammo IDs likely to actually spend enough to be able to utilize it. Sinclair's only Pride skill is his defensive skill, Ferris Guard. It's a 9 to 15 rolling Pride Guard that inflicts 2 Tremor to the attacker if he gets attacked while he has shield up to 4 times per turn. It's a very unimpressive guard skill to be honest, but since it allows you to have input into when you activate his passive, I can't really say anything bad about it. But you'll only really need to use it to activate his passive. Adherence to Propriety is a 3 to 11 rolling Pierce Lust skill with 2 coins that can become up to a 3 to 15 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn, and gains 1 Clash Power if the target has a Tremor with a unique amplitude. This can be any amplitude and not just Tremor Scorch, so Reverb, Everlasting, Superposition, you name it and you get that extra Clash Power. This is maintained throughout his entire kit for the most part. You might notice that this skill doesn't inflict any burn. That's because these IDs really want to only inflict burn using their bullets, It's alright for inflicting Tremor though. Respect the Thumb is a 4 to 16 rolling pure sloth skill with 2 coins that can become up to a 6 to 22 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn, and if the target has a Tremor with an Amplitude. It also deals up to 30% extra damage if the target has enough Tremor or Burn, which is really helpful for his damage. It inflicts about the same amount of Tremor as skill 1, and the second coin triggers Tremor Burst only if the target has 6 or more Tremor. Additionally, the second coin inflicts 2 burn count if the target has enough Tremor Scorch specifically, which will make said burst burn count neutral overall. Fun fact, it's also the only burn infliction on either of these ID's kits that is not tied to their ammo. It kinda stinks that this is the only conditional that requires specifically Tremor Scorch, though. Thruster Compression is a 5 to 17 rolling / Wrath skill with 3 coins that can become up to an 8 to 26 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn, and if Sinclair has at least 3 ammo left. The coins also become unbreakable with 3 or more ammo, deal 30% more damage, and each individual coin deals another 25% damage if it happens to spend ammo. The first coin triggers Amplitude conversion into Tremor Scorch, and the entire skill is both Tremor and Burn count neutral should you spend 3 ammo, since it triggers an additional Tremor Burst on the final hit upon doing so. This skill hits incredibly hard as long as you're spending ammo with it, and the fact that it will also increase your damage by 30% next turn thanks to spending ammo is just an added bonus. It being his only skill that spends ammo means you're likely not to run out either. This ID is incredibly well suited to a Tremor team specifically, but his ego that matter are more suited to a Burn team. First off, he perfectly feels Impending Day, which is an ego that seems to become better with every new ID released on Sinclair. The additional resource generation from the passive as well as the team-wide heal on kill are just really nice to have, even if the ego itself is underwhelming for overall damage. He also comes very close to perfectly fueling 9-2, which is not a great ego, but it is his best method of inflicting burn should he run out of ammo. In a proper burn team, you should have no issue triggering the conditional to inflict attack power down, and you should have enough lust skills to reliably get at least 1 additional attack weight for extra damage. If only the passive didn't actively hurt him in the SP department. Next up is the main event for this particular new target extraction, the Thumb East Capo Quarto Meursault. He begins with 12 Tiger Mark round as ammunition, and his coins that use ammo don't inflict burn if they can't spend ammo, just like Sinclair. There are 3 conditions that cause him to reload, which replaces his remaining Tiger Mark rounds with 8 Savage Tiger Mark rounds afterwards, and also gives him the Unrelenting Spirit effect for the rest of the encounter. This triggers on the first time he uses his defense skill, upon becoming staggered for the first time, or after using a skill that spends his last Tiger Mark round. Bonus points if he was staggered to trigger this, since it will unstagger him at the end of the turn, though this reload effect can only trigger once during the encounter and only if he hasn't already reloaded. Unrelenting Spirit increases his min and max speed by 1 each, making his speed range a 5 to 7, and increases his damage dealt by up to 20% if he's faster than the target by 3 or more. He'll also inflict 1 more Tremor potency and count with his skills, which will increase his Tremor infliction by a lot. In fact, I'd say it's probably best to just trigger a reload as soon as possible in a Tremor team in order to inflict more of it. Once he's spent 8 or more combined ammo with his skills, Unrelenting Spirit becomes Unrelenting Spirit Sheen, which doubles the damage bonus and additional Tremor infliction of the original effect, and makes his speed range a 7 to 9 by default. This is a ridiculous bonus, though it will take at least a couple of turns to get to it, but it makes this damage and Tremor infliction become insanely strong in any situation. And we're still not through his non-fueled passive. The skill that consumes his final Savage Tiger Mark round gains 2 attack weight for free, and grants Meursault Overheat at the start of the next turn. Never mind the 2 attack weight for now, and let's go over Overheat. This effect also grants Meursault 2 additional min and max speed, making his final speed range be 9 to 11 without any help. It also lowers his own clash power by half the amount of ammo he has spent during the encounter, which is strangely bad, but not really, because he gains up to 5 protection at turn start based on how much HP he is missing if he has spent 8 or more ammo, which is guaranteed if you have this effect at all. At 14 or more ammo spent, his Unbreakable Coin skills deal 75 to 150% more damage based on how much HP he's missing, and at 20 or more ammo spent, he also deals up to 50% more damage against targets with a higher HP percentage than he currently has. Also, if he happens to gain more ammo from Sinclair, this effect will go away until he spends that ammo. This ID can have unbreakable coins. As long as you have 3 or more Sloth, his skill 3 becomes entirely unbreakable while you still have 1 or more Target Mark round, and all coins that spend Tiger Mark round gain 1 final power and deal 10% more damage, which can make all of his skills deal a ridiculous amount of damage. Savage Tiger Mark rounds instead convert all coins of every one of his base attack skills into unbreakable coins, and any coin that spends Savage Tiger Mark round gains 2 power, deals 30% more damage, and inflicts 2 more burn potency and count with its effects. This passive is just a little bit insane for both burn infliction and to help deal absurd additional amounts of damage. When you combine Unrelenting Spirit, Sheen, Overheat, and all the bonuses of his base passive, you get an ID that is already so strong without even looking at his skills that he's a shoo-in for Tremor teams, Burn teams, and any team that just slaps on the strongest IDs in the game. Because yeah, I don't think it's too insane to claim that this ID is one of the top 5, if not top 2 IDs in the game as of right now in terms of overall power. His support passive is also nice, as it can give ammo IDs a 15% damage bonus if they're fast enough. Once again, this is only really has implications in boys teams that feature full stop IDs, but it's worth keeping in mind for those teams anyways. I'm Burning Up is his defense skill, a 5 to 13 rolling /sloth clashable counter with 2 coins that can become up to a 7 to 15 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn, and also gains 2 clash power if he currently has no remaining ammo. As stated earlier, this skill will automatically reload the first time you use it during battle, and this is likely the preferred play in Tremor teams so that you can inflict Tremor much faster. It's roughly as powerful as his skill 1 overall, but since it doesn't spend ammo, it can't inflict any burn, which only really matters in burn-dedicated teams. Double / Blast is a 4 to 12 rolling /sloth skill with 2 coins that can become a 7 to 15 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn. It is a very strong skill 1 for what it does, having a second coin that can roll 17 for damage and deal 30% more damage for free, plus whatever damage bonus you're getting from Unrelenting Spirit. This skill also inflicts a metric assload of Tremor potency thanks to Unrelenting Spirit, and even inflicts a good amount of burn potency at the same time. It's just genuinely a fantastic skill that didn't really need to be the best possible roll range for a skill 1 in the entire game. Triple / Blast is a 4 to 16 rolling /lust skill with 3 coins that can become up to an 8 to 20 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn. Very similar to skill 1, this skill becomes absurdly powerful and good at inflicting Tremor and Burn once you have Unrelenting Spirit. It spends 2 ammo and even triggers a Tremor Burst if the target has 3 or more Tremor count on the final coin, which is fulfilled by its own effect if he has Unrelenting Spirit. It will most likely be your primary source of damage no matter what, and keep in mind how much additional power and damage it gets once you have Savage Tiger Mark rounds and something like Overheat. Tangle Cleaver is a 5 to 17 rolling Blunt Wrath skill with 3 coins that can become a 5 to 23 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn. It inflicts a ton of Tremor and Burn, and is usually entirely made up of unbreakable coins that gain additional power and damage. The last coin also deals an extra 50% damage if it spends ammo, converts the target's Tremor into Scorch, and triggers 3 Tremor Bursts if it spends ammo. It's actually a bit unimpressive compared to the rest of his kit, even if it does deal a ridiculous amount of damage overall, but this is by design because you aren't going to see this skill very often. This is because as long as he has 1 or more Savage Tiger Mark round, you instead activate Savage Tiger Slayer's Perfected Flurry of Blades, a 3 to 18 rolling Blunt Wrath skill with 5 coins that can become a 3 to 28 if the target has enough combined Tremor and Burn. It has the exact same amount of Tremor and Burn infliction, number of Tremor Bursts still converts to Tremor Scorch on the final coin, but just from the fact that it has 5 coins, and the last 3 of those coins become significantly more powerful thanks to Savage Tiger Mark rounds, makes the skill one of the most powerful in the entire game. Never mind that it can have 2 attack weight, a massive damage boost from Unrelenting Spirit, and it's hard to even compete with this skill. Rip Space even does less damage. This is the first skill since launch of the game to have 5 coins by default, and the game's second skill ever to have an offense level of higher than +5. And the skill becomes even more ridiculous once you realize that this is an ID on Meursault, so regret is on the table. He doesn't perfectly feel it, but the additional 2 coin power on its passive is insane on this ID, turning the maximum roll ranges on his skills into 6 to 18 on skill 1, 7 to 25 on skill 2, 4 to 28 on skill 3, and 2 to 37 on his upgraded skill 3, and that's before taking into account the power bonuses that he gains from his own ammo. Let's also not forget that this is just a good Tremor ego to begin with, and that it can help clear Meursault's negative status effects for even more utility. And then we have the ego that he perfectly feels by himself in Capote, an ego that inflicts a metric fuck ton of both burn and tremor. Pardon my French, it's funny because Meursault is French. It can make up for the -1 base power from regret with its own passive, triggers Tremor Burst at the same time as well. Plus, it's cheap enough that you can reliably use the corrosion, which can inflict burn to allies, but also has 2 additional attack weight for even more ridiculous burn and tremor application. These 2 IDs can be added into any team and see a great amount of success thanks to their high overall capabilities, but in terms of what status teams they function best in, as mentioned earlier, you're going to want to focus on burn or tremor or both. Their best 2 partners are Faust and Ishmael due to them both having great ego and IDs that pair with them. Ishmael has either Zwei West Ishmael or Liu South Ishmael dependent on your team. Not only do they both have complementary sin affinities for the thumb IDs, but they bring along Snag Harpoon and Christmas Nightmare for even more Tremor Infliction and Burst to pair well with Tremor Scorch, and she even has her own Capote which buffs the wrath damage of the whole party, and Ardor Blossom Star if you'd rather focus on inflicting a lot of burn and having a large wrath damage nuke attack. Faust's best 2 IDs to pair with the thumb are Lobotomy Ego Regret and Limbus Company Ego Ardor Blossom Star. Regret is just a great ID to pair with other Tremor IDs thanks to her passive, ability to inflict plus coin drop, and her AoE skills that do ridiculous damage. Regret also functions as the best option if you want to try combining Tremor and Burn together on the same team, as it gives you access to Gloom resources through her counter, and works well with Burn IDs to begin with thanks to her sin affinities. Ardor Blossom Star is your option for burn-dedicated teams and has the exact same affinities, inflicts good amounts of burn and generates resources upon death, and even has benefits from being inflicted with burn from Meursault's Capote Corrosion. Regardless of which one you choose, you can use Everlasting to turn Tremor Scorch into a ridiculous wrath damage nuke, thanks to all the additional Tremor bursts it happens to cause, and burn teams should even inflict enough burn to keep their burn stacked through it, eating 4 to 12 burn count in the process. There is a genuine argument to continue bringing Dawn off as Sinclair in a burn team, so you can continue to generate Gloom and Envy for more ego options, since replacing him cuts you off from those affinities by quite a bit in burn teams. That said, he's a great unit to pair with the new Meursault if you don't feel the need to bring the new Sinclair or just don't have him. These IDs work well with pretty much every burn unit that is classically good. Liu South Yesang, Sonic East Don Quixote, Liu South Rodian, Liu South Ryoshu, Magic Bullet Otis, and Fire Fist Office Gregor all provide complementary sin affinities and increase the consistency of burn teams by quite a bit. Otis and Don Quixote also bring very good ego to trigger Tremor Burst with in burn teams, with Don Quixote having both Wishing Cairn and Fluid Sac, and Otis having Holiday, which is a great SP regeneration ego to bring in place of the Magic Bullet ego if you want to, or if you just don't have that one because its Valpurgis not exclusive. For Tremor teams, the best Tremor IDs for both Don Quixote and Otis are T-Corp Class 3 Collector and Muller Office Fixer. They're both exceptionally good choices as well, having great sin affinities and the same ego that were mentioned earlier. Muller Office Otis even provides extra sloth damage on Tremor Burst and bursts Tremor a lot thanks to being a discard ID with a skill 3 that bursts 3 times. And if you really need a Tremor unit on Quixote, you can always bring N-Corp Mittelhammer, which, while not amazing, is still good at inflicting and bursting Tremor. Yuridivi Honglu is the single best unit in any Tremor team, still thanks to his access to Cavernous Wailing to inflict Tremor Reverb, and also his skills that trigger a lot of Tremor bursts. While it is a little tricky to do thanks to Meursault being so ungodly fast, if you can get the trio of Scorch, Reverb, and Everlasting under the same Tremor superposition, any amount of Tremorverse will deal an absurd amount of elemental damage that should be able to just melt any enemy. And any team that features Tremor also gains a lot from the support passives of Molar Office Yisang and Yuridivi Ryoshu, since it will increase their damage by a good amount after each burst. For Ryoshu specifically, you won't be able to use either Thumb unit in deployment slot 1, however. And that's about all there was to it, and oh boy was it a lot to go over. These are pretty unquestionably two of the strongest new IDs we've gotten in, I guess, 3 weeks. So if you play Tremor or Burn, or just want a pair of really good IDs, this is probably one of the best banners to pull on, in my opinion. That said, Fulpurgus Noct is coming up soon, so it may still be worth waiting to save your resources until then. I have them in my company if you want to try them out before you get them. They're both incredibly good for any team. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video and would appreciate if you liked and subscribed, since it helps me out a lot. Let me know what you think about these two in the comments below. Thank you for watching my video, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon.